I know I wrote a book, right? It's called Buy a Game and it's free. Click the link down there. You got it.
DreAllDay.com.
What you are watching here is an off the court workout that I like to do at a field where I get to work on some speed, agility, endurance, conditioning. So this is not just long distance conditioning, but short distance conditioning. So what you're looking at right now is just my warm up. So I was doing a little bit of a run forward, then run backward. By the time this video actually starts, I'm doing the backward run. Now I'm doing some butt kicks where I'm lifting the heels up to the butt. That kind of loosens up the hamstrings. And if you're going to be doing any type of activity that requires a lot of running and running fast, you need to make sure you loosen up the hamstrings. Last thing you want is to pull a hamstring while you're running. Now I'm doing a karaoke. This was called karaoke when I learned it. This opens up the hips a little bit, so you see you're getting the turn in the hips while still facing your torso sideways or forward, whatever way you want to call it. And you're getting that movement in the torso, movement in the hips rather, while keeping the torso facing the way that it's facing. And I'm going to do that going in both directions. So this is something to open up those hips. Now, if you're playing a sport like basketball, a sport like football, any type of sport that requires changes of directions, which you don't always know what those changes of directions are going to be, you got to make sure the hips are opened up. The tighter your hips are, the less agile you'll be in changing direction. You won't be able to juke an opponent out the way or stay in front of an opponent who's trying to juke you out of the way. So again, this is all part of my warm-up before I do these type of workouts. I know I'm doing some explosive movements here. Last thing I want is for any part of my body to be tight, and then I'm not able to finish doing what I'm doing. Now, what you're seeing here, this is after I had done certain stuff already. I think I do jump rope before I did this. I do some stair running, different types of stair running. You'll see that in a separate video. So now I'm doing some more retro running. Now I'm going into doing lunges. And I hate doing lunges. This is something that I absolutely hated doing. I would never do lunges before I started working with the trainer, but the trainer told me, listen, your lower body is very important when you're playing a sport like basketball. And lunges is something that not only is it helping with the strength, but also the stability of the knee joint. And anytime I had any issues with my knees, I would do lunges to help get that stability right. You're going to see that in the full workout that I'm going to put out, working on the knees for the stability. But doing the lunges was absolutely my least favorite thing to do. Now the lunges going in reverse. I had never even thought of doing anything like this. Again, my trainer Maria introduced me to this. If you've never seen the videos with she and I working out together, then just keep watching. You'll see plenty of them there. Plenty of them already on my channel, but there'll be more coming. And we got some more stuff coming overall that y'all gonna love. But anyway, these are the reverse lunges. Again, this is all part of that lower body warm up. And this is something that, again, once it was given to me, I started using it because I trusted the judgment of my trainer. But if I was left to my own devices in these workouts, I would never, ever do lunges. I hate doing lunges. Now, here's some just stretching out the hamstring. I'd already done plenty of hamstring stretching before I even got to this part. And I'm going to do a whole lot more as I get into what you're going to see here. So this is just walking hamstring stretch. I'm not even standing all the way up. I'm just getting this done so I can get into what I'm doing. This was the middle of the summer. This is probably sometime around July or August that I'm doing this workout. Bright, sunny, and super humid day in Miami as usual, but perfect day to be out there on the field. As you see, it ain't nobody else out there. So now, walking off the hamstring stretch. So I'm making sure I'm stretching every part of my lower body. I do some calf stretching too on another part of the field because there's no elevated spaces for me to really do it in the space you're looking at right now. But I make sure I take care of every part of my lower body, make sure everything feels loose and limber before I do anything, because a tight muscle is a muscle that is prone to pulls, tears, and any other type of injuries that we don't even want to talk about because we don't want those to happen. Now I'm lifting up the knee, stretching out the back side of the leg. So this is more for the glutes. Also the hip flexors. Actually, I'm contracting the hip flexors doing this, but when I did the butt kicks, that's kind of extending that hip flexor. Every time you run, the hip flexor muscle is moving. If you get tight hip flexors, often people get those from sitting down a lot of computer chairs and things like that. But any athletes, if your hip flexors aren't loose enough, you go out there and try to sprint, you're going to run into a problem. No pun intended. More retro running. And this is all getting my body loose for what I'm about to actually do. And you'll see once this workout begins that all of this stuff is necessary for what I'm going to be doing. Me, when it comes to playing basketball, I always liked the explosive movements, being able to explode past another player, whether that's vertically in the air, laterally side to side, or going vertically on the ground, meaning speeding past another person, running past somebody because they just couldn't keep up, or blasting past a defender. They're standing still, and I just get around them or get around multiple defenders. That explosive movement is important. I think it's important for all players, and explosive is relative. So something that's explosive for one player might be 1,000 times what you're used to doing for explosive, but any way that you can up your speed, up your explosion, even if you do it in the moment of the game, it can be a change of pace on the person who's guarding you, or a change of pace against the defense in general if they're not expecting it. That's really the key. It's not the key that you have to be the fastest or jump the highest, because that can only be one person. But if you can surprise the defense, that's really the key. So now I'm doing some hamstring stretches. If you can see me that far away, then we're going to get into I want you to see these hamstring stretches and how much time I'm putting into doing these, because with the sprints I'm going to do, this is super important. So we're going to pick it up once I start the sprints. One quick sprint here I'm going to do without any extra equipment, just so I can feel like. So I'll make sure everything's where it's supposed to be, everything's feeling how it's supposed to feel. Then we're going to get into what I'm actually going to be using here, which is the speed parachute. So there's the parachute there in my hand. I got this from Nike. This was a Nike Spark speed parachute. I'm not sure Nike even makes. I'm pretty sure they shut down the Spark department. That stands for speed, power, agility, reaction, and quickness. I think they shut it down, but I like the products that they had from it. That's where I got that from. But you can get a speed parachute anywhere. You can get it from Sports Authority, Dick's Sporting Goods, Amazon.com. Look it up. I don't have an affiliate link, anything for a speed parachute, so you go grab the one that works best for you. They all do the exact same thing. So pick one if this is something that you're going to do. And I've seen people use speed parachutes in the gym on the court, such as with dribbling a basketball, sprinting from one end of the floor to the other. But I always prefer using the speed parachute outside for a couple reasons. Number one, this field being 100 yards, add the end zones, that's a 120-yard field. And if you want to add in the distance of the track, is much longer than a basketball court, which is only 94 feet, and that's the NBA length. And another thing is that outside you have the elements which can add resistance to your sprints. So anytime I'm doing sprints, for instance, this video that you're watching, the wind, or at least whatever wind we had, as you look at the trees, you see nothing's really moving. Whatever amount of wind we had was coming towards me in that direction. So that's where I'm going to sprint from. So I use the wind. So any days that it was real breezy, or I had any type of breeze going on in the atmosphere, I could use that to add resistance when I'm using the speed parachute. Whereas when you're inside in the gym, unless you have, an industrial size fan, like with a Beyonce fan, unless you have one of those, you're not going to be able to create that type of extra wind resistance. But if you sprint fast enough, the parachute itself will be the resistance. Because if you go fast enough, the parachute is made to just open up. That's what a parachute was designed to do. So this is the speed parachute that I'm going to be using here. You see I'm doing some more stretches of the hamstrings, because the last thing you want to happen when you are doing, this is what I call overspeed training, where you're running as fast as you can, but you're actually overspeed training because you're using an extra piece of equipment that makes it harder than it would be without it. The whole premise behind using the speed parachute is when you sprint with the chute, you are fast. As soon as you take the chute off, you'll be going even faster than that. So that's why I always like doing overspeed training, or whatever other versions of overspeed training. For example, running with a weighted vest on, or doing sprints, not jogging, but doing sprints with a weighted vest on makes it much easier to sprint when you don't have a vest. And I often did these sprints with the parachute and the vest, and that made me super explosive, not only going north and south as far as running, but also jumping. Even though I didn't do any actual jumping with the parachute and the vest on, I was still able to jump high with it. And that's because the speed that you build up in running towards the basket helps build your vertical leap. So the sprints here, I always start at a certain distance, then I slowly go up per distances. So that first one, I think I went about maybe 20 to 25 yards. And then I slowly go up as I go through more sprints. I want to increase the amount of distance that I'm sprinting, but also make sure I'm doing it gradually. Because again, the very, very, very last thing I want to do is push myself before my hamstrings are warmed up and actually ready to keep going. And every other part of my body too. It's not just the hamstring, but the hamstring is the number one muscle targeted when you're doing sprinting like this. But also talking about the hip flexors, the quadriceps, all the muscles in your feet, the Achilles, the calf muscle, all of that stuff matters. Everything you saw me warming up, all of it matters when you get into doing these sprints. And I would take a good 1 to 3 minutes in between each sprint. So this wasn't just do a sprint, then stop, catch a breath for 15 seconds, then do another one. This was, and again, because as I mentioned, that I'm going back to the beginning spot because of the wind resistance that was created going from that direction. So you can see the wind blowing a little bit towards the right there every time I start sprinting. So now I'm doing about anywhere from 20 to 30 yards. I think that's the 10-yard line that I'm starting on. Now I'm getting up to about the 45 or 50-yard line, so it's at about 35-yard sprint. Yeah, I'm stopping around the 45-yard line, so my camera was probably around the 50-yard line. And whenever I would do these sprint workouts, I'd do anywhere from 8 to 25 of the sprints with the parachute. You don't have to overdo it. You don't have to do like 50 sprints with the parachute. I mean, you're not running a 100-meter dash. You're getting your hamstrings and explosiveness ready to play a game of basketball, and where there'll be times where you're going to run slow. There'll be times when you're walking. There's going to be times when you're standing still. So that's the way I like to train it. If I can do 8 to 12 sprints in one workout, I can feel that difference in explosion during the game, because you're not going to be running at your complete fastest speed for the entirety of a basketball game. I don't care how explosive of a player you are. Any player you watch, they don't run as fast as they possibly can every single time they touch the ball, or even every single time they go up and down the court. And now I'm doing in reverse. So you can see my back's to the camera now. Now I'm running backwards, then I'm going to turn in the middle of that backwards run, then I'm going to sprint out the rest of that run. I always add a couple of those in, and when you do those, you actually feel that burn in the front of your legs instead of feeling it in the back of your legs with the hamstrings. You feel it in the front of your legs. And in basketball, there are times where you'll be backpedaling, and even if you only need to backpedal once over the course of an entire game, would it be worth it to have an extra half a step, a quarter of a step, 2 whole steps over your opponent or over the person you're trying to stay in front of or get past, whatever your situation happens to be? So I do a certain number of those steps going backwards. I try to work on turning both directions, from the left into the right. Oh, watch out for that parachute there. Now I'm going to get a few more of those sprints in. You wanting a complete off-the-field training program made specifically for basketball athletes, it is called the Ultimate Athlete. That is a program that myself and my trainer Maria have updated. There's an updated version of that program. It may be out already, but if it's not out, it is definitely soon to come. The Ultimate Athlete, best off-the-court training program for basketball players, because it covers every area you need to be a basketball athlete. Whether you're a quote-unquote athletic player or not, you need what we're giving to you in the Ultimate Athlete program. That'll be at dreallday.com/UA, standing for Ultimate Athlete, or Work on Your Game University, workonyourgameu.com/UA for the Ultimate Athlete program. Working on your speed, your explosion, your power, your agility, flexibility, strength. And the best part about Ultimate Athlete, you don't even need any equipment whatsoever to do the program. We're going to have physical books to ship out to you. You're going to have digital access to links and videos and descriptions and everything. Work on your game.